Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Unplugged Woodworkers podcast. So I have quite literally just got back home late Friday night. I am recording this Saturday, so I haven't really had a lot of time to prep myself for a video style podcast. So this week, for those of you that do like the video style podcasts, you're going to have to wait till next week for that. I also, because I was late coming home on Friday, I was scheduled to be kind of leaving Norwich, which is the southeast of England at approximately 9 o'clock in the morning. That kind of changed to 4 p.m. So by the time I got home, it was like too late to pick up some wood. I actually wanted to pick some wood up, some oak probably. I'm going to have to kind of rearrange my schedule to get down. I'm not sure where I'm going to go actually. I may go to Firsk. I normally do go to Scorton Sawmill, which is in Firsk, obviously. And there is another wood yard that's about an hour's drive from myself. For the life of us, I can't think of what it's called, but I may go there. I kind of haven't made my mind up because, like, 2 weeks ago, I was kind of thinking about doing a Queen Anne table. My mind went blank there. So yeah, I was kind of thinking about doing one of them. I still kind of am. But kind of looking around my house, and I've been banging on. People must be sick of hearing us bang on about this dining table. I was kind of looking around the house again today, and I really need to do a dining table. So I think it's going to be one of those things. I'm going to turn up at the wood yard and I'm going to like literally see what they've got. You know, I might go down there and I might see some amazing slab. You know, and I might end up picking an amazing slab up for a tabletop dining table. So if nothing kind of, you know, grabs us, I'm probably going to go ahead with the Queen Anne table. So the other day, I was actually I was thinking about like building the Queen Anne table, and I don't know if I've come across something on Instagram or YouTube, or maybe I was just thinking about it. But a ball and claw foot or leg, if you will, kind of came up. You know, like I did actually look into it a little bit, and I have visited this in the past, and it is actually on my bucket list. Same as a Queen Anne, it's like side table or tea table, you know, something like that. But a ball and claw leg is also on me bucket list. I've like literally wanted to do a ball and claw for maybe for the last 10 years. I don't know why I haven't like attempted it. I'm at that point now in my joinery where I think I'm quite confident enough to have a go at it. You know, and I'm not going to be disappointed, you know, if it doesn't turn out great. But that's probably why it's probably took us this long. But as I said, I am at that point now where I am confident enough to have a go, even though I haven't got a great deal of you know, gouges or anything like that. I think I own like 2 gouges. That might be something to look into, maybe. Who knows? So today, I thought I'd talk about joints. More specifically, kind of what you can expect after you've cut the joint, you've glued the joint up, or whatever, or while you're using it. You know, if you've maybe it's a chair, maybe it's like a Roman workbench, you know, something like that. These are just some of the things I've noticed. obviously this isn't going to happen in every country in the world, because obviously there's a lot that goes into wooden joints, whether they come apart, whether there's gaps in it, because obviously there's wood movement. So as I've just said, this varies from country to country, because obviously if you take the likes of, I've made this example loads of times, if you take the likes of the northeast of England, where I'm from, the UK, it's pretty cold most of the year. Sometimes we'll get a couple of months of really hot weather, or what I consider really hot weather. You compare that to somewhere like, I don't know, maybe Florida. I've been to Florida several times, and Florida's to me it's super hot, super humid, so obviously it's the two different areas are going to have a lot of different effects on wood. So bear that in mind when you're listening to what I'm some of the examples I'm giving, because where you're from, and if you're listening from maybe America, because I do have quite a lot of people that listen to us from America, obviously it's going to be a lot different. But I thought it was interesting, so I'm going to kind of talk over some of my observations and what I've noticed. I've got a few different joints I'm going to talk about. So first on the list is a conical tenant. A conical tenant for me is probably the most predominant joint that I've got in my house, or in my shed rather. Because I can't remember what it is. I think I've got 5 Roman workbenches. I think three of them have got conical joints in the legs. I've also got 2 chairs in the house, 2 Welsh stick chair types. They're also conical joints. I've also got a coffee table that's also conical. So yeah, it's fair to say I've had a bit of experience with them. So overall, the joint itself, I think it is a really good joint. I don't know whether I've read this or whether I've heard somebody say it, but kind of the way it's supposed to work, a conical joint, is that when there's pressure applied to it, i.e. sitting in a seat or a bench type of thing, so the more pressure you put on it, the more it tightens itself, which it's kind of, when you think about it, it's quite easy to grasp that. So I think the very, very, very first conical tenant I'd done was for the very first Roman bench I'd done. So the very first Roman bench that I'd done, the only bit of kit I went out to buy was a reamer, and this was a Ferretus reamer. I've still got the reamer, never changed the blade. I think I've sharpened the blade, although I think you're supposed to. Well, not supposed to, but I think you can go out and buy the replacement blades, which is probably a lot easier than sharpening, but I think I have sharpened it once. I haven't actually used it for a while. So that was the only bit of kit I got for that. And the tenants, they were just basically eyeballs, got them as close as I could with a draw knife. And then I followed up with a spoke shave. And I don't know whether it's in the Anarchist's design book. I'm thinking it is. Chris Schwartz recommends that you basically get a lead pencil and you basically do a load of you basically colour the inside of the mortise hole, and then you stick your the conical tenant in. You kind of turn it round a bit, and it kind of highlights all the high spots and the low spots. So basically the high spots, you'll end up with pencil lead on them, so to remove that, and it's just rinse and repeat. Basically you just keep on going back. So in the end you basically want that conical tenant to be like full of lead pencil basically, and you know you're pretty close then. So that's the method I used. So with that method, plus the application of actually using the bench, I believe two of the conical tenants come loose. I'm not really sure of the time frame. You know, I could be guessing here. I mean, maybe 6 months of use. One of them come away, and maybe, I don't know, maybe 9 months again. I'm guessing the time. It could be less, it could be more. So when that happened, I basically put the reamer in, back into the mortise holes, give it a very shy reaming. This was just to remove some of the glue, and with the conical tenants, I basically just used my cord scraper and just removed the glue that way, glued it back up, lined it back up again, give it a good belt with a hammer, let it dry. That was it. Or did I wedge it? I don't know if I wedged those ones. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I can't quite remember now. So I didn't really have a great deal of problem after that, although obviously, you know, I kind of stopped using it not too long after that, because anybody knows that follows us, you know, I have built like quite a few of these. I lost count. I don't even know how many I've built now. I think it's like about 7 of them or something. So as I said, with that, you know, kind of, you know, it's not too bad when you consider, you know, the amount of stress that goes onto a room and workbench. You know, you're planing on it, you're sewing on it, you're sitting on it, you're kneeling on it, standing on it. You know, so it does. The legs actually do get a lot of stress. So obviously the stress on the legs goes straight to the joint. You know, so it's. I don't think it done too bad, you know, for what it was put through basically. So the next bench I actually built after that was used for basically taking apart. I didn't glue this one. I didn't glue the legs, but I did use a conical tenant cutter. Same again, that was a Veritas one. I still own that one. It's a good bit of kit. I do actually recommend it if you are thinking about doing things like Roman workbenches and seats and stuff. I think they're about somewhere in the region of £30. I think there's about 3 or 4 different sizes that you can buy. I do currently own 2 sizes. So when you don't glue these joints and you just hammer them in, they are actually quite strong, and you cannot pull them out, and it takes quite a lot to wiggle them out as well, believe it or not. What I found with this bench though is when it's on uneven ground or even like semi-flat ground, i.e. my back garden on the grass, they will eventually work themselves loose. You know, after a couple of hours of use. Same again, I mean, it's not the end of the world, you know, but this is something you can kind of expect, you know, if you're kind of not using glue, you know, with this type. But if you are going to like be doing this, I would definitely highly recommend getting a reamer and getting a conical tenant cutter. Combine the two of them together, and you're going to get an extremely like snug fit. And that combined with a couple of belts of a hammer or a mallet, and you could even go one step further and even wedge it up if you're going to glue the thing up. So I actually did do this with the oak bench. This is the oak bench. This is the one with the horse shave attachment that I featured in my free ebook. Same again, anyone that wants the free ebook, there's links all over my social media. It's totally free. Don't have to sign up. Don't have to give us your email address. It's here. Get it, download it. End of. But there's plans for that. and that thing, that was obviously the Veritas tenon cutter and the Veritas reamer. That was glued, that was wedged. I ain't had a pick a ball off that. That bench absolutely gets abused. It really does. I've done everything on that bench. I was like doing box jumps on the thing. I've used it for everything. That is one of my favourite benches. My only rife with that bench is that it's not wide enough. It could have been a little bit wider, but not to the point where it like irritates us. But you know, it could have been a little bit wider, and I think it would have been, you know, like nigh on perfect for us. But as I said, with the conical joints, I haven't had a single problem with them. The only problem I did have, and this was my own fault, here with one of the legs. When I built the bench, I actually was using some dowel and drilling some dowel in and placing some dowel into the legs. And this was basically just to hook, my plane, just to get me planes off the top of the bench, and like in other tools as well. But the problem with them were that if you brushed your leg against them, you would snap them. You know, you would hurt your leg, and you would basically snap it. So, what I decided to do was put some nails in. So obviously the nails, like, kind of dealt with the problem of the snapping part, but I didn't think it through properly, because I was still catching my leg, and you know, if you catch your leg on a nail, it hurts. So I decided to take them out. So what I actually done, when I put them in, I drilled a pilot hole which was tight, and I hammered the nail in, you know, to be careful not to split the wood or split the yoke on the leg. So trying to get them out, I struggled really, really, really bad. I managed to get one out, and the opposite side, that was really jammed in. So I had the claw hammer on it, and I was riving and trying to get it out. And I actually snapped the leg. I snapped the leg just at the very base of the conical tenants. Ironically, the conical tenant was still it was wedged in there. It was really, really, you know, I was like, wow, this is really good, but not really good, because I've got to remove it. But just to show you if you do it correctly and you get it glued up and you get it wedged up and nice tight fits, that thing ain't going anywhere. So literally the whole leg snapped. I did actually get the stub of it out. You know, it wasn't a major issue to get it out, but it didn't come out, you know, freely, if you will. You know, it did take, you know, a bit of force to get it out, but I did manage to get it out, and I made a new leg, fitted the new leg, and, you know, spot on. You would be none the wiser unless I've kind of pointed it out to you and told you. But that's if you, as I've just said, if you do them correctly, you won't have any issues. So if you do it correct, you should expect that joint to be there for many, many years. You know, in a fashion of maybe seats. You know, if you build a bunch of these seats, say, whatever, or a Windsor chair, anything like that, you should expect it to be, you know, okay. You should expect that joint to be pretty good for a long time. Okay, so next on the list is a round mortise. So I did actually want to compare this, obviously, between the conical and the round. So I have had numerous round tenants. I think in my house there's the bench, the bench where I'll actually sit my TV on, which ironically I don't watch. So there's that's totally fine. That hasn't budged at all. However, On the three-legged workbench, two of the legs have actually come loose. I think I can't remember if I fixed them. They still might be loose. So this was kind of down to wood movements. So these were actually wedged as well. So it has actually shrunk quite a bit, considering that, you know, I put it in, I glued it, wedged it, and it's still come loose. So, you know, it has moved quite a lot. And I also had this, I made some parallel bars quite a few years ago now. I've still got them though. I made them out of oak. But I've had two of those, two of the joints rather, because there was a total of 4 joints. I've had 2 of them joints where I've had to actually like take it out, re-glue it and re-wedge it. So the moral of the story with this is basically I should have dried those parts out a lot better. This, you know, looking back, this would have been nice and easy for us to do. You know, I could have easily, because I've got a log burner, I could have easily, you know, put the tenant ends next to the fire, get a lot of heat on. It would have shrunk. You know, then I could have took it down to its final size, whacked these into the mortise, wedged it, you know, and it just would have absorbed some of the moisture from the glue, some of the moisture from the air, and it would have expanded. So what actually happened was that I didn't do this, and I wedged it as it was, glued and wedged it as it was, and basically it lost some moisture from the wood and it basically become loose. It kind of makes sense to us now, especially you know, the more you read and the more you do, you kind of pick things up. It's like it's the same with legs. I think it was the last kind of book I was reading. I think it's like how to make a Jenny chair. I don't think that's the full title of it, but it is a Jenny chair. I hope it's a Jenny chair. Basically, it's a leather back chair, but I think the specific book was, I'm sure it was a woman called Jenny. So the chairs are actually absolutely beautiful, and I haven't got around to making one. I really want to get around to making one. Basically, you use green wood for this. It's like from log to chair, and I really, really want to do that. So in the book, it kind of states that the legs, you'll kind of just, I don't know, you know, you let them dry out a little bit, but whereas the stretchers, if you will, the stretchers that are tying the legs together, the four sides of the stretchers, you kind of want to be taking, you know, like the moisture out of them. There's different ways to do it, you know. There's like, obviously some people put them in like homemade kiln, you know, so it'll be like a box with like some lights in it that kind of generate a lot of heat. And there'll be holes in the top of it where you'll basically just, you know, put the conical tenon in, or you'll put the whole thing in, and it basically dries it out. And it's the same principle. So with this, you kind of leave the legs alone, and you dry the stretchers out. So when you come to fit it, you drill the hole, you put the stretchers in, and kind of the idea is that the stretchers will actually expand, obviously with the moisture of the glue, and obviously with the moisture in the air, so they expand, and the legs, they'll continue to dry. So when they dry, they'll actually shrink. So you've got it's quite clever. This is nothing new. I think this has been around for like hundreds. This technique's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, I believe. I could be wrong, mind you, but it's in my head. It has been around for a very long time. So, you know, you've kind of got the expansion of the stretchers, and you've got the you've got the shrinking of the legs, you know, so it's kind of just like tightening in on itself, you know. It's a really good method. It's really quite simple, but it's really ingenious. Yeah, so, you know, kind of going back to the round tenons, you know, that's kind of something you can expect. You can expect them to come loose if you're not going to do something that I mentioned before, you know, taking the time to, you know, kind of dry the tenon out, which I would highly recommend, because there's nothing worse having to like pull things apart, or, you know, sometimes it can be a nice easy fix. You might just have to, you know, stick a wedge in it, but, you know, 9 out of 10 you might have to reapply, take the tenon apart and reapply glue, or remove the old glue, reapply it, and then put it back in, wedge it again. So it's probably better if you just kind of do it in the, you know, like dry it out in the first place. So regular tenons, I don't really think there's a great deal of problem with regular tenons, you know, in regard to scale. I mean, obviously the bigger the tenon you go, obviously there probably is going to be some sort of issues with wood movement and such. This is why it's always kind of a good idea to you know, put haunches in like very large tenons. So if you've got like a really large tenon, so maybe like a good example of what I'm actually going to use is my headboard in my bed. So it's actually, I can't remember the size of it, the width of it, but it's basically, it's like one single board, and it's mortise and tenon joints into the bedposts. I think the bedposts are somewhere in the region, I think like 3.5 inches squared. So they go straight into there. So I mean, maybe the width of the board is maybe somewhere in the region of 300 to 400. So as you can imagine, you don't really want a tenon that big. It's going to be problematic. Obviously, there's going to be more material to cut on the tenon, and then you've got the same problem with the mortise. You've got more material to use in a mortise, and if you're doing this by hand, anyone that's done a mortise by hand, you know, it's obviously the more you've got to remove. You know, it can be time consuming at times, even if you're drilling the most of it out with a brace and bit, which is my preferred method. So by adding like haunches into the tenons, is what you're doing. You're actually separating the wood or all of the tenons. So you're creating multiple tenons on a single board, and as what this does, this minimises wood movement. If you can imagine, say we've got a 1-inch piece of wood, so you can imagine how much movement will be out of a 1-inch piece of wood. Let's just say, for argument's sake, let's just say it's 1 millimetre. So that's the kind of movement you've got. But imagine if it was like, you know, one single tenon, and let's just say it was 12 or 13 inches. Now all of a sudden you've got 13 millimeters of, you know, kind of movement. So it's a lot more. So it's actually better like to do that in that sense. So another thing that I noticed, something you could probably say it was something I done wrong. When I actually put the mortise and tenon joints together, I didn't glue these, and I specifically didn't glue these because I didn't want to glue them, basically, and I kind of wanted to like test the joint to see how it fared up. I mean, worst case scenario, I would just have to take the thing apart and glue it up, it's not a big deal. So what I actually done, I was gonna use a like a borehole, kind of that technique. So basically you add like an oak peg into it, and basically it's placed off centre. So the bed post itself, there's a drill. Basically you drill through that, and the tenant joints, that's like kind of offset. You drill a hole through that, but it's offset from the drill hole on the bed post. So as what this does is when you actually put the peg in, it actually pulls it together, and if it's done correctly, you don't even need to use clamps or anything like that. But since I had clamps, I just what I thought is that I'll just like clamp it together. I'll drill the hole in a wanner, basically meaning that I'll drill like through the post with the tenant in, and with us actually clamping it, it's going to clamp everything nice and tight together. And Bob's your uncle, basically. So earlier today, I was actually, I was going through what I was going to talk about on the podcast, and I decided I was just going to talk about like kind of joints and stuff. So I actually kind of like started going around the house and like inspecting. I had to pause it there and kind of get that word out. I couldn't get that word out there. So I started like investigating all these joints around the house, and I got to the bed and I looked, and I've actually got a very, very slight gap from the shoulder of the tenant to the post. It's only very, very slight, but it's there, and I know it's there, which makes it even worse now. So what's basically happened is that I've clamped it together, I've put the peg in, I've drilled a hole, I've put the peg in, lovely tight fit, and I remember it being a nice tight fit. I remember that specifically. However, over time, the last, I can't remember when I built. I think I built the bed about 3 years ago, something like that. So over that time, with with the seasons and with central heating, it's shrunk and whatever else. So basically, the bed post itself has actually shrunk. It might just be this time of the year. I'm not overly sure. I can't remember it being like this earlier in the year, so I'm not 100% with that. So the post has actually shrunk, and it hasn't been able to move. Things haven't been able to move because basically the point where the peg has went through the post and it's actually grabbed a hold of the tenant, that's stationary, that isn't going anywhere. So that's like, the post itself has actually shrunk around it. So it's basically done its job and it's kept it stationary, but you've got that slight like shrinkage, and it's revealed a little gap. So yeah, you can't expect that to happen if you do what I done. So don't do what I did. If you are going to go for the pegs, I would highly recommend that you do the draw bow technique, what I just explained. Okay, so this is going to be the last one on the list, and that's going to be dovetails. I've got numerous dovetails kicking about the house. I've got a couple of blanket chests. I've got drawers. What else have I got? I've got tables with dovetails in them. So I can't really say there's anything you should really expect kind of movement wise. Well, yeah, yes, he is, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But I mean, you know, like the joints themselves, I don't think you'll see much change, like, you know, on the faces of them. You know, so the faces of the tails, you shouldn't really see any separation, or at least I don't, with any of the dovetails I've done. So bearing in mind, I've got just your traditional regular old dovetails. So they're set at 80 degrees. I've also got 2 different variations of Japanese style tenants, dovetails. So, like, I don't really see, you know, any change in that respect. But I do, this is one thing I've noticed time and time again, like over the last, maybe the last 10 years. It's the same again as well. It will be the changing of the season. So this is to do with wood expansion and contraction. So you will, or at least I will feel a little nip where the end grain is. So where you've got the pins running through to the tailboard, I will be able to feel the end grain at the shoulder point, and it's the same on the other side again. Sometimes it's more predominant in other woods, and sometimes it can even be more predominant in different sections of the wood. So, for instance, if you've actually got, like, say, I don't know, maybe 3 boards, and those 3 boards, you know, like, on of the same board, if that makes sense, you know, the different boards, you can actually get kind of, like, on one board, you'll actually get more rise than you will on the next one. So rise might actually be the wrong word, because there is movement in the like in the length of wood, but most of it's done on the width of the wood. So it's the width and the thickness. Sorry. So this is probably more to do with the thickness than anything else. Obviously, there is movement in the width, but I don't tend to notice that so much. But that obviously might be the construction, you know, or at least the way that you use dovetails. So it's kind of end grain to end grain. It's not end grain to, you know, to long grain, which I have seen, and I kind of have spoken about that a little bit. It's like, it can be done, but it's structurally it's not the best. You know, kind of dovetails should be like end grain to end grain. That's the work best that way. It's not to say you can't do it, and sometimes you will use it in different, like, scenarios, but most of the time it should be end grain to end grain. So obviously, when you're going end grain to end grain, the two sections of boards, they're able to move together. You know, so I can't really say I've noticed a great deal that way. But I mean, I'm in the van at the moment, but when I go home and my coffee table has actually got the 2 corners, it's basically just like a U shape or an N shape, if you will. And it's basically connected by 2 corners of dovetails. So when I go back, you know, I can run my hand from, you know, length to length, or end to end rather. And as soon as I come to them dovetails, I will be able to feel ever so slightly, you know, a lip, where the proud. It's ever so slightly proud, you know. To look at it, you'll never be able to see it with your eyes, but when you run your fingertips across it, you can feel it. So the thing about this is when you actually do it, when you do actually cut the joints, and then you and then you're playing it down, you've glued it, you've clamped it, whatever, and you start planing, and you remove, you know, the step, because there's normally always you know, some step after you've cut the joint. So once that's all planed down, you know, and you've sanded it and whatever else, it's nice and smooth and you can't feel it. You know, you apply your finish, and you know, that's it done basically. But you can't expect that 100%. I think with most woods, you should expect that you will be able to feel, you know, ever so slightly the rise. So I think I'm going to call it there, guys. I've rattled on enough today. Hopefully next week I should get a video podcast out, hopefully. I'll see how busy I get, because I am actually planning to do a YouTube video, just like a little project or something like that. I have got a few projects I want to do, so if you've got any questions, anything like that, hit us up on YouTube, or not YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, or drop us an email. There's links in the description to everything. So if you want us to answer any questions, hit us up, like I say. So thanks very much, guys, and until the next time, I shall speak to you later.